Following the United Nations Millennium Summit held in September of 2000, the United Nations announced the Millennium Declaration, with 8 stated goals to be reached by the year 2015, which were aimed at improving global health justice and became known as the 2015 Millennium Development Goals. While many of these goals saw some improvement, some areas targeted did not show improvement. In fact, most of the areas in these 8 stated goals were either unfulfilled or only minutely fulfilled to the degree of promise that was originally hoped for when they were drawn into being in the year 2000. The 8 stated goals of the 2015 Millennium Development Goals were goal number 1, the eradication of extreme poverty and hunger. Goal number 2 was to achieve universal primary education. Goal number 3 was to promote gender equality and the empowerment of women globally. Goal number 4 was to reduce child mortality rates globally. All of these were global healthcare concerns, and I aimed at such. Goal number 5 was to improve maternal health and health care. Goal number 6 was to combat HIV, AIDS, malaria, Ebola, and other highly infectious diseases. Goal number 7 was to ensure environmental sustainability. Goal number 8, the final goal, was to develop a global partnership for development. So, with regard to goal number 1, addressing poverty and hunger, the original goal was to eradicate poverty and hunger, extreme poverty and hunger, by the year 2015. You can see here on the slide, poverty is not limited to any one nation, but it is a worldwide issue. The United Nations final report on the results of 2015 Millennium Developmental Goals were biased and misleading, touting a reduction of 50% global poverty and hunger. These figures were not accurate. They were, while hopeful, not a reflection of the actual truth. Both global poverty and hunger have in fact gotten worse since the year 2000. Over 1/2 of the world's population, 4 billion people, currently remain in poverty. And currently over 1/4 of the world's population, 2 billion people, are dealing with hunger. While the United Nations goal of totally eradicating hunger and extreme poverty in just 15 years was indeed lofty, the results of their efforts were far less successful than their claims in their final report. Goal number 2 was the establishment of global universal primary education so that children all across the world would be ensured access to a primary education. This goal was also not met. While there was some successful programs implemented, such as in South Africa, there were several educational centers that were established in metropolitan areas, but in the rural areas there was no such centers, and children in rural districts often went without school and for lack of resources and access. Things that contributed in some regions to not meeting these goals were war, poverty, antiquated ideas on gender equality. For instance, in Pakistan alone, you had 25 million children that currently don't attend school. These are school children, school-aged children between the ages of 6 and 8, and the majority of these are girls. From a quantitative perspective, many programs in developing third world regions such as Africa have improved greatly towards reaching universal primary education. However, most of this focus, as noted, is in metropolitan regions, and children in rural areas are still not being fully reached due to a lack of resources. While children in metropolitan regions are getting greater inclusion and access to primary school, there is room for improvement, as physical education as a part of primary education is not greatly emphasized, and there is a genuine need for children to be taught such. Shehu 2014 asserts that physical education not only builds confidence in children, but teaches them skills that contribute to achieving greater physical health. Poverty and gender equality in developing and underdeveloped nations has seen slow to no growth in this area of the 2015 Millennium Development Goals. India is the second largest population on the planet and yet ranks 11th for ensuring primary education for all citizens in its borders. While some parts of India seem very developed, large portions of the nation remain underdeveloped. Antiquated gender roles impact access to education for many children in Middle Eastern countries such as India and Pakistan. In Pakistan, there were 25 million adolescents in 2015 who did not attend school despite the nation pledge in 2000 to ensure that all children would have access to primary education by 2015. Pakistan blames their failure to reach this goal on infrastructure, war, poverty, and gender inequalities. Okay, the next goal is addressing gender equality and the empowerment of women, and this is still an issue that needs to be addressed. Gender equality continues to be a problem worldwide, even in developed nations where progress has occurred. In many smaller and impoverished nations, however, attempts to implement policies advocating gender equality have in some cases caused more harm than good. While progress towards gender equality is advancing in some nations, and others it is not believed to be a realistic goal at all. And we're talking here, these attitudes predominantly exist in third world nations where there is no equal rights or very little equal rights for women. It should be noted that Simmons in 2014 made note that in some third world nations where poverty is high and equal rights are low, little effort was made to enact any real change to empower women. In the nation of Pakistan, a bill was proposed in 2010 to meet the goals of empowering women and creating gender equality in their borders that they agreed to in the 2000 summit, in which the 2015 Millennium Development Goals were drawn up. After the bill was proposed, it never got voted into law, and after 5 years, they just dismissed it altogether. The next goal is reducing child mortality rates. The leading causes of childhood mortality globally are malaria, diarrhea, malnutrition, and pneumonia. Between the year 2000 and the year 2015, there was no significant change in child mortality rates in any of these areas, and no progress made on this goal. This was an unfulfilled promise of the 2015 Millennium Development Goals. The next goal is addressing maternal health. And a research analysis of 74 nations determined that maternal health and health care improved worldwide since 1990. This is one of the areas, one of the few areas where the 2015 Millennium Development Goals saw progress. So all across the board, they saw progress in this area of maternal health and health care, but there are still great disparities that exist. While the 2015 Millennium Development Goals created a notable positive impact in this area of global health policy and justice, strong health and equity still exist in this area, and equity between nations vastly differs. The next goal was addressing highly infectious diseases such as AIDS, HIV, Ebola, malaria, and others. Should be noted that 70% of all HIV and AIDS patients on the planet live in sub-Saharan African regions. And between 2007 and 2014, there was significant improvement in combating HIV and AIDS, and significant improvement in the morbidity rates in these same regions, in sub-Saharan African regions. So this was another goal where progress was seen, but there's still a long way to go, and there's still a need to continue to focus on and emphasize combating these illnesses. And so carrying forward from the 2015 Millennium Development Goals to the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, these same goals are being carried forward with a new address and a new focus on achieving the results that were desired when the original 2015 Millennium Development Goals were created. The next goal is addressing environmental sustainability. The goal of environmental sustainability is aimed at ending hunger and addressing pollution and global warming through prudent recycling, land management, forestation, and farming practices to create environments that are perpetually livable environments and self-sustaining or easily sustained. The 2015 Millennium Development Goal of improving environmental sustainability had some positive impact in third world countries, but not much overall. In recognition that this goal was not fully realized, new strategies to meet this goal are included in the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. Of the areas that did see progress in developing nations, this was a result of developed nations contributing resources in the form of grants and education, and sending experts to these developing regions to educate them in forestation techniques and sustainable farming techniques. And so there was some progress seen here, just not a great deal. The last goal is goal number 8 is the final goal of the 2015 Millennium Development Goals, and it's an agreement aimed to create an international consortium of governments committed to eliminating world income inequality and global poverty by focusing on economic development programs that improve conditions in the poorest countries. And so the goal here was the idea is if we lift up our poorest and make them into a better economic state, then the overall global population benefits from this. 190 nations agreed to the terms of this goal and committed to the partnership. While regular follow-up conferences were held, this effort failed to reduce the problem of global income inequality. The primary failure in this goal is attributed to the unequal distribution of power. This goal was a proposal by the partnership of Europe, Japan, the World Bank, and the United States to improve the quality of life in sub-Saharan African regions and other sub-Saharan regions. But those regions weren't given any say-so or any power in how to implement the help that would come and how to come to the decisions about how that help should be given. And so it resulted pretty much in failure. Now, so in summary, the 2015 Millennium Development Goals should neither be defined as a success or a failure. While the program promises mostly went unfulfilled, the goals in and of themselves are lofty and worthy of pursuit. The issues they hope to address are still very real issues in ever-present need of resolving. Global inequality and lack of universal primary education has made some progress in many countries, while virtually no progress at all in others. The realization of the failed aspects of the 2015 Millennium Developmental Goals, such as the worsening global poverty and hunger, raised the need to reconsider the program and develop new strategies and efforts in hope of success. In the wake of 2015, to continue the fight to bring the original goals to life, the United Nations developed the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. Given the results of the program, the 2015 Millennium Development Goals can be adequately defined as a good beginning. But they're still lacking. Many of the goals were unmet, the promises unfulfilled, and so while it's a good start, there's still a lot of work to go on meeting and achieving these goals.